Dear brothers and sisters, who all face the common problem of being excluded within the class of scheduled communities in terms of access to the reservation seats and other resources vis-a-vis our own fellow beings who claim to be also part of the scheduled classes. To all of you alone, I would like to address certain key issues that today bother us and which need urgently our application of intellect and mobilization of energy in this regard. Why such an important engagement of our intellect and concerted action is called for is the immediate context of the Honorable Supreme Court's judgment in the case of Civil Appeal number 2317 of 2011 in the matter of the state of Punjab and others versus Devendra Singh. In this fundamentally important judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court has upheld, pronounced a very important path-breaking judgment. That judgment in itself is in the spirit of Ambedkarite philosophy of liberating the masses from the yokes of slavery, and that judgment is for the first time laying down a legitimate constitutional and legal ground apart from many moral grounds as to why we should go for categorization or subcategorization, subclassification, internal rationalization, internal reservation or reservation within reservation of the seats that are allotted to the class called scheduled classes, which is notified by the President of India. This judgment throws abundant light as to the artificial characteristics of the list that has been created by the President and notified by the President. There is nothing in the list of communities to be included in the scheduled caste to say that they are inter se one and the same class. It is an artificially created class insofar as it is compared and contrasted with the dominant castes that are operating in this country. Otherwise, the list of names of castes or classes that find, communities that find their name in the schedule that is attached to the Constitution is totally a motley crowd of different communities. It is totally a mere enumeration of communities that faced a common problem of untouchability in the hands of the Savarnas, and beyond that, this class of people who find themselves in a schedule is not a homogeneous class. Dr. Ambedkar, while arguing about the homogeneity matter in his path-breaking article, Caste Mechanism, Genesis and Development of Caste, in that article, Dr. Ambedkar says that amalgamation can never be the sole criterion of homogeneity as predicated of any people. Ethnically, all people are heterogeneous. Kindly note this very, very, very important point of Dr. Ambedkar. He says that mere amalgamation can never be the sole criterion of homogeneity as predicated of any people. What does this mean? This means that we are amalgamated into, even the question of amalgamation doesn't arise in the case of the list of communities that are notified by the President of India as scheduled communities. There is no amalgamation of these communities merely they are an enumeration of communities that face the problem of untouchability or any kind of disabilities in the hands of the Savarnas, those who believe in Varna system, Manu system. So, the list of communities that have been enumerated in the schedule notified by the president is not even an amalgamation of communities, but rather it is a mere enumeration. Even the judgment of E.V. Chinnaya says that it is a conglomeration of communities put under the schedule called schedule caste notified by the President of India. If that is the case, then the argument that we are a homogeneous class gets further whittled down, diluted, and becomes meaningless if we take even by the standard expressions used by the E.V. Chinnaya judgment and the purpose for which it has been created. If you see, the wordings used or the expressions employed there are merely the words enumeration of communities. Enumeration means what? Giving a numbering. How many number of, like 1, 2, 3, that is called enumeration. And that enumeration is done in an alphabetical manner. So it doesn't give any priority to any community in terms of any access to the benefit of reservation. The communities that are scheduled under the figuring in the scheduled caste, in no way any particular community can claim priority over the others just because their name is found in the alphabetical list as first or in the middle. So it is merely an enumeration of all those who are eligible to be under the schedule called schedule caste. And it is a conglomeration. This is yet another expression used by E.V. Chinnaya judgment. What is the meaning of conglomeration? Merely a collection of certain items, certain people. So if the criterion of enumeration, the criterion of conglomeration itself is indicative of the fact that there is no homogeneity per se among the various communities that are grouped under this schedule, except that they are in comparison to the caste Hindus or a class unto themselves. Otherwise, per se, there is no homogeneity. And here is that the argument of Dr. Ambedkar becomes very relevant, that even amalgamation can never be the sole criterion of homogeneity. Amalgamation means mingling together, mixing together, keeping together. This itself doesn't mean that this is a valid means for attaining or claiming homogeneity as predicated of any people. So Dr. Ambedkar gives even a far more standard proof that even if you have amalgamated people into one group, it doesn't mean that it is a valid criterion to declare them as a homogeneous people. Why Dr. Ambedkar says this argument? Even amalgamation will fail to create a class of homogeneous people, because Dr. Ambedkar says in the subsequent sentence, ethnically all people are heterogeneous. This should rest the entire matter to be settled, as we are all ethnically, the Madhigas are ethnically a different people from the Malas. Similarly, the Malas are different from the Madhigas ethnically. So also the case of Rellis, so also the case of Mahars are ethnically different from the Madangs, and the Madangs are ethnically different from the Mahars. Like that, if you extend, the Madhigas in Karnataka are ethnically different from the Holayas, the Arundadiyas are ethnically different from the Parayas in Kerala, and the Parayas are ethnically different from the Pulayas, like that. In Tamil Nadu, the Sakya Kuleyas, the persons who belong to the Kul of Sakyas, that is Lord Buddha's clan, the Sakya Kuleyas, also called as Arundadiyas. Arundadi means the sun goddess of light, which is the name of Mahamaya, the mother of Lord Buddha, and which in turn comes to refer to Lord Buddha as a metaphorical name. So if you see, the Arundadiyas are ethnically different from the Parayas and the Pallas, and the Namasudras are ethnically different from the Ravidasyas, and the Chamars are ethnically different from the Parsis and Paswans, and Majahi Sikhs. So if you see, we are all those who have been put under the scheduled caste list notified by the president. We are not a homogeneous class per se. We are, even though we are not amalgamated, we are merely enumerated in the list, we are merely conglomerated in the list, we have been clustered, grouped and placed under that list only as a homogeneous group insofar as we have a certain right to avail the reservation that is given under the Article 16.4 or 15.4, things like that. And that door is closed against the Savarnas or Manuvadis. To that extent alone, we are a homogeneous class, and a homogeneous class doesn't come into existence in the absence of a criteria against which it is homogeneous. All women are homogeneous, and that is homogeneous only when they are compared with the men as a class. That doesn't mean that all women are equal in terms of education, age, and their region and religion, things like that. But for the purpose of comparing and contrasting them with the gender called males, we can say all women are a homogeneous unit insofar as with reference to the males as a homogeneous class. And both it is an administrative, it is a legalistic, it is a logical category that we create, that whether a particular group of people to be called as homogeneous or not, for the purpose of comparing and contrasting it with other class of people. This doesn't mean that the people that we have created artificially through a deeming fiction is per se a kind of homogeneous class. No two women are same. Their age, education, their looks, their formation, their background, their attitude, everything is different. So also the case in the case of all the scheduled communities that figure in the list that is notified by the President of India. Therefore, my dear friends, the ethnological argument that has been put forth by Dr. Ambedkar to insist and to underline the point that we are not a homogeneous class has to be taken up as an important argument to put forth against the fallacy of fascistic fallacy of the dominant Dalit caste within the list of scheduled castes that are notified by the president, to say that we are all a homogeneous class. This pseudo-homogeneity, this pseudo-unity argument of all these Mahars, these Malas, Parayas, Pallas, Holiyas, Chamars, Namasudras, Pulayas and Parayas in Andhra Pradesh and Holiyas in Karnataka has to be exposed. You have to be very clear and dig deep into the various writings of Dr. Ambedkar to bring out how the castes themselves are not a homogeneous class, and for what purpose a class can be artificially constituted as a homogeneous class, and once that purpose is lost, once that criterion is lost, then it is no longer relevant to call a particular class as homogeneous. Now, for the purpose of giving separate electorate or separate reservation, the ex-untouchables have been grouped as a homogeneous class vis-a-vis the touchable classes. That is the only thing, criteria by which we constitute a homogeneous class, and thereby we have been placed under the list of the scheduled communities notified in the constitution, annexed to the constitution. But that doesn't itself mean that we are inter se a homogeneous group of communities. If that is the case, then the principle of reservation, which was the argument itself beautifully says, the Arun Mishra, Justice Arun Mishra led beautiful, that bench has given a wonderful judgment. It says that the original principle of reservation is to give a level playing field to the hitherto hitherto those people who have been not given access to education and employment vis-a-vis the those who are dominant or backward classes. Therefore, it is earmarked for the scheduled classes. That is why the reservation principle has come. This original principle of reservation, which was given to this number of classes which are enumerated in the list, has been now found empirically over this period, that as Krishna Iyer, Justice Krishna Iyer in N.M. Thomas case has clearly said in 1965, that a tiny elite minority among the Dalits have gobbled up the entire reservation seats available for the scheduled communities figuring in the list of scheduled castes. This argument, this insight, somehow we have not picked up in the year 1965 itself. If we could have seen that even though we are brothers and sisters, we have a separate stomach, and our brother eating a food doesn't mean that we will, our hunger will be satisfied. So we have failed and we got into this vortex of the false ideologies spun by these Mahas, these Malas, Parayas and Holiyas and Pulayas and Chamas, that we are all one, projecting us as victims in the light of vis-a-vis the other classes. These people have successfully eaten away all the fruits of reservation, and then they have not done anything to their own brethren and sisters in the same community. They have enjoyed the reservations and then they ditched their own communities. Even within the Malas, what the IAS, IPS, UPSC member Malas have done to those who have become UPSC members, those who have become secretaries, what they have done to their own brethren who are in the rural areas, they have not done. But merely emotively they have used this logic of Dalit unity and things like that, and they have given this long drawn, spun, ideological mess to digress us, to divert us from the material conflict that is at the heart of the issue of reservation. But from this Malajalam, from this false net, we have come out. We are now coming out and seeing that it is right time that we should seek for our own separate reservation of the seats that are allotted to us. Then the principle of reservation is not a permanent settlement. It is a dynamic settlement, and it will be rolling. It is a traveling concept of settlement. It will travel until it reaches to the individual who deserves most. But these people are making a false argument that reservation cannot be splitted further. Why? The individual is the unit of our constitution. Therefore, the principle of reservation is not a permanent settlement. It is not a Malavari settlement. It is not a Samarvari settlement. It is not a Maghalvari settlement. It is not a Paryavari settlement. It is not a Pulayavari settlement. It is a settlement which is meant for every community that is deprived and did not have an adequate representation or did not come out of their backwardness or the historically imposed disabilities. So then, reservation is a dynamic resettlement principle, and whatever has been wrongly settled so far is being resettled or proposed to be resettled in the wonderful judgment of Justice Arun Mishra-led bench, in this case of State of Punjab versus Devendra Singh. Therefore, my dear brothers, please pay keen interest to this vital argument so that we can popularize this idea, bring it on the trending of the human mind, in the global mind, among all of us, create consciousness, revolutionary consciousness as to your rights, so that the matter, when it comes up before the seven members led bench or something else, so that we can get justice, we can get the resources partitioned according to the proportion of our population and the degree of our backwardness. And in this, as Professor Sambayya Gundibada Garu has said in his article, we have to make a relevant criteria regarding gender, regarding the rural versus urban, and the first generation graduates or not, or like all these disabilities, All those things have to be factored in, and suitable weightages. As an ex-IAS officer, Ramayanjaneyulu has said, we have to formulate certain things and we have to carry forward this revolutionary idea of justice that has been proposed by Dr. Sambaya Gundivadagaru in his vital article, to which I have drawn your attention. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, please beware of the homogeneity, fallacious and pseudo unity argument put forth by our own brethren who are only patriotic to the extent of talking about Ambedkar and Lord Buddha in so far as it comes to the ideas, and when it comes to the matter of sharing the resources, they are so much Brahminical, monovistic, casteistic in their approach. It is like Dr. Ambedkar said, when it comes to the matter of money, patriotism vanishes. The so-called Dalit unity vanishes the moment the question of sub-categorization, sub-classification and internal redistribution comes. And none of these thousands of WhatsApp groups, TikTok groups, Telegram groups are there. They are, across the country and globe, they are all talking in various, public forums. All these Mahars, Malas, Parayas, Pallas, Holiyas, Chamars, Namasudras, all are keeping a criminal silence regarding the wonderful judgment of Justice Arun Mishra led this bench. They are keeping a kind of studied silence about this judgment, and they act as if nothing has happened, because by being silent, they want to kill this issue. Dr. Ambedkar says, you can kill by untouchability, that is one technique, and another technique which I said, kill by being silent. They want to kill this issue of internal democratization of resources and reservation by being silent about it. There is nothing noble about their silence in this. It is a criminal silence. When there is a duty to speak, if you keep quiet, under IPC, you are liable for the act of being criminally silent. That is what all this creamy layer, which is nothing but a criminal layer insofar as social justice and social redistribution of this democratization of reservation power is concerned, they are keeping silence. My dear brothers, Madhihas, Sakya Kuleyas, and many other, brethren in this country, sisters in this country, beware of these pseudo Ambedkarites and pseudo Buddhist, claimants. Thank you.